Greetings, Earthlings, and welcome back to 7th Street, and welcome back to the 5th episode of the Crazy 80s. Shout out to Critical Kid for coming up with that title for this. No introduction, man. It's 1985. This is a great year, quite possibly the strongest year of the entire decade, at least thus far. Without further ado, let's get into it. Fright Night.
He's not a vampire. Have him touch this. Oh, Charlie.
Now, here's a movie that took me a few tries to really come around to. Not that I disliked the movie upon first viewing it, it's just that it's been redone and reworked multiple times in multiple incarnations, like episodes of Are You Afraid of the Dark, Goosebumps, and Tales from the Crypt, also movies like Disturbia. I mean, Fright Night is itself a bit of a supernatural take on the Alfred Hitchcock film Rear Window, so it's kind of one of those movies that you feel like you've seen even before you actually see it.
I don't understand you. First you want to make love and then you don't.
But once you get past the overfamiliarity with the story, you'll find that this is truly one of the more fun teenaged horror films out there. The characters are very entertaining and relatable, and the effects during the film's climax are top-notch. The movie is about Charlie Brewster. Charlie is an avid horror fan, so much so that horror movies on TV actually distracts him from his relationship with his lovely girlfriend Amy. After two men move in next door, Charlie, with his horror movie experience, suspects their strange behavior can only be explained by the fact that they are a vampire and his Renfield-like guardian. Unfortunately, nobody believes Charlie's story, so he enlists the help of Peter Vincent, the vampire killer from one of his favorite horror television shows.
I used to admire you, you know that? Well, of course, that was before I found out what a fake you were.
Peter Vincent must assist the young teen in killing his neighbor before he kills him and his girlfriend and possibly the whole town. Fright Night is quite possibly the second best vampire film of the 80s, drawing a lot of inspiration from the popularity of the teen coming-of-age dramas and also other horror comedies that came out around the same time, like American Werewolf in London and The Howling 2. This is a fun, light horror film, definitely one I'd recommend to a younger audience or people who are not necessarily horror hounds like the rest of us. It's a pretty mainstream one, so you really should check it out if you haven't.
Oh, you're so cool, Brewster.
Number 4, Reanimator.
You killed him. No, I did not. I gave him life.
R.I.P. Stuart Gordon, truly one of the most underrated horror maestros ever, and Reanimator is probably his most well-known and well-received film. In 1985, a young Gordon teamed up with fellow body horror master Brian Usna and Full Moon Pictures' Charlie Band to create this H.P. Lovecraft-inspired gore fest, and surprisingly, it became the company's first major hit, winning a Critics' Prize at the Cannes Film Festival. The film stars one of the genre's best character actors, Jeffrey Combs, as Dr. Herbert West, a genius and introverted medical student who, while studying abroad in Austria, discovers a serum to reanimate the dead. Unfortunately, this practice blows up in the young student's face, and he is forced to return to a small-town American university where he continues his experiments.
What were you researching?
Death. Oh, Alan,
We don't see you around here much anymore.
Well, I was just showing our newest student, Herbert West here, the not-so-grand tour. This should interest you, Carl. He worked with Hans Gruber.
Like most Frankenstein-esque tales of post-mortem reanimation, the experiments spiral out of control with murderous undead monsters and headless crotch-eating deans galore.
Yes, Doctor. It's Herbert West. What are you thinking? How do you feel?
This really isn't one that you need me to walk you through. It's one you just gotta see for yourself. I know I say that a lot, but Reanimator really is. My giving you a play-by-play of the dead cat that had been stored in West's mini-fridge being reanimated as a mangled puppet killing machine would be nowhere near as fun as if you just bought the freaking movie yourself.
He couldn't have been dead. Do you agree that he's dead now? Do you agree that he's dead now?
On a side note, I actually met Jeffrey Combs at a horror film festival I was premiering a short film that I directed at in Seattle, Washington. He was staying on the same floor of the hotel as me, and I actually jumped in the elevator with him. He's a great guy, super down to earth, and we basically just talked about the Northwest and how cool of a social climate we have here. Jeffrey Combs is the man. Anyhow, Reanimator is an insane gore orgy directed by an absolutely underrated master of the genre, starring a truly brilliant character actor. It's a shame that this movie came out in such a strong class, because it definitely is top 2 worthy in any other year.
Whatever it is that gives the dead the appearance of life.
No, it is not the appearance of life. It is life. This is not magic. As you say, I am a scientist.
Number 3, Phenomena.
It's perfectly normal for insects to be slightly telepathic.
Yeah, it's normal for insects. But am I normal?
Ah yes, Phenomena, my personal favorite Dario Argento film, a top 5 giallo film. Yes, that's right, Phenomena is a giallo film. I get a lot of flack for saying that, but it is. Just because the movie deals with the supernatural doesn't mean that it can't be a giallo flick. That's an insane argument. Get that shit out of here. Phenomena is a strange movie, man. It's beautiful in so many ways. I absolutely adore the look and feel of this movie. Every frame of this movie is so pleasing to stare at. Even when the movie is gory, it's still beautiful. It's got this fantasy element to it, and Jennifer Connelly carries the film wonderfully as the teen girl Jennifer Corvino, daughter of a wealthy movie star who winds up stuck at a Swiss boarding school for girls where there just happens to be a psychotic killer on the loose who kills and then decapitates young women. Also just so happens that Jennifer possesses the strange ability to communicate with insects, and she uses her psychic bond with a fly to locate some of the bodies of the missing girls and the psychotic serial killer.
If we mean to get him, we have to call on the services of the 2 greatest detectives ever known. Perhaps I should say unknown. Up until now.
Who were they?
You and him. The great sarcophagus.
Yeah, man, I did a reference this film episode on this one a long time ago, and I kinda wish that I didn't. There's so much I want to say about this movie, and I feel as though I didn't really do it justice. Phenomena is drenched in dreamy atmosphere with incredible lighting, camera work, and beautiful music. The plot is really weird, yeah, but it's also incredibly beautiful in its own way, almost working as like a coming-of-age film, with the discovery of her psychic abilities almost coming across as like maybe a metaphor for puberty.
Friends and I... She is crazy. This is mine.
No doubt that this movie is some sort of reflection of Argento's own daughter, Asia, whom had to deal with her father's fame all her life, probably finding herself placed in expensive boarding schools while Dario was away for months working on the horror movies that we all drool over today. Phenomena is a sweet story at heart, wrapped up in a psychotronic giallo trip fest. This movie is majorly Argento at his finest and most creative. I mean, there's a chimpanzee decapitation scene in it, for Christ's sake. Go check this one out. Number 2, Return of the Living Dead.
Did you see that movie, Night of the Living Dead?
Yeah. That's the one where the corpses start eating the people, right?
Did you know that movie was based on a true case?
God damn, there's a lot of good number 2 selections in this series. Return of the Living Dead could honestly be the best horror comedy of the entire decade, giving American Werewolf in London a run for its money. Yeah, I said it. Return of the Living Dead somehow finds itself unfairly depreciated in value, at least as far as name recognition goes, but this is the movie that popularized the idea that zombies eat brains.
Why do you eat people?
Not people. Brains.
Why?
The pain.
What about the pain?
The pain of being dead.
Which is still recognized in popular culture by today's standards, and I think this is a film that was way more popular at the time than it gets credit for. When I talk to people who were teens in the 80s, they all seem to remember seeing this movie in the theaters quite well, which is funny because it's such a deep-cut cult movie these days. Return of the Living Dead is well worthy of a reference this film episode. There's just so much that you can say. Number 1, Return of the Living Dead boasts one of the best 80s punk rock soundtracks known to man, featuring such bands as SSQ and The Cramps. The movie begins with 2 bumbling employees of a medical supply warehouse that accidentally ruptures a canister that preserves the remains of a decades-old zombie in it. The men then attempt to burn the body, which only creates a cloud of toxic smoke that goes up into some clouds and then rains acid rain that reanimates more corpses in the local cemetery. This is your classic Abbott and Costello routine of going from bad to worse, no matter how hard you try to resolve the situation.
Mister, there's 100 of those things out there.
How many did you say?
100?
The movie also vaunts a cast of stereotypical teen punks that must team up with the warehouse workers to survive the onslaught of the living dead. This movie is a freaking hoot, man. I'm sure that everyone who's watching this channel has seen it, so I don't really think I need to defend it all that much. It's a mega cult hit through and through. Dan O'Bannon does an incredible job with the direction of this movie, and the cast is incredible. Tom Matthews in particular deserves a special shout out. This guy should have been a bigger star.
It's all over everything, stupid asshole! Watch your tongue, boy, if you like this job! Like this job!
Number 1, Day of the Dead.
I'm running this monkey farm now, Frankenstein, and I want to know what the fuck you're doing with my time!
Alright, look dude, George A. Romero is my favorite filmmaker of all time. And no, I'm not just some zombie nut that sits around and masturbates to The Walking Dead. I am like a for-real, die-hard Romero loyalist. Martin is my second favorite movie of all time, only falling slightly short to Night of the Living Dead. Romero not only revolutionized the genre by creating a hugely popular subgenre, but he was also the first to make such a major impact outside of the studio system. Romero's first feature was a big reason for the existence of the MPAA, and was also the first film to star an African American with the story having absolutely nothing to do with race. Romero broke grounds in his films constantly. His storytelling is truly masterful, with his films usually touching upon some sort of social issue such as consumerism, tradition, religion, family, and 1985's Day of the Dead is yet another brilliant study of the human nature that feels much more reflective today than ever before.
Maybe if we tried working together, we could ease some of the tensions. We're all pulling in different directions.
Well, that's the trouble with the world, Sarah darling. People got different ideas concerning what they want out of life.
Years after the outbreak that brought the dead back to life, the human population has dwindled significantly. As one of the scientists in the movie says,
"We're in the minority now. Something like 400,000 to 1 by my calculations."
Whole cities crawl with flesh-eating zombies, and a small band of soldiers and civilian scientists take refuge in an underground missile silo. With no real objective, and communication from other survivors becoming less and less frequent, the group descends into a sort of madness, with two different groups constantly arguing about what their next move needs to be. The scientists want to find a way to reverse the process of reanimation, or at least somehow understand why it's happening. One of the scientists even goes as far to try and domesticate one of the flesh-eating undead.
Extraordinary, isn't it? Say hello.
Come on, Captain, give me a break, will you?
Apparently he was in the military. Return a salute and see what he does.
You want me to salute that pile of walking pus?
But the soldiers, run by the tyrannical Captain Rhodes, has other ideas, wanting instead to devise a plan to fight their way out of this situation. With both sides being unable to get along and work together to overcome this major catastrophe that threatens them all, I can't help but feel that this movie perfectly mirrors the Congress of today. There's absolutely no real reason that they shouldn't be able to find a way to make this all work and survive the situation by standing together as one unit. But for whatever reason, they just can't get it together, and ultimately it's the animosity for each other that eventually does everyone in.
Formulas, equations, a lot of fancy terms that don't mean a thing. I want to know if you're doing something that's going to help us out of this deep shit we're in. Or if you're all in there just jerking each other off.
Day of the Dead is a beautiful film. I know I say that a lot, but this one really is a beautiful film. It's expertly acted, with Laurie Cardell, Richard Liberty, and Joe Pilato being some of the big standout performances. The special effects in this one are Savini's best, in my opinion, with lots of bloody dismemberments and chunks being ripped out of skin. The location of this movie is also great, almost becoming a character in and of itself. The whole movie has this dark, claustrophobic vibe to it, featuring almost no natural light throughout its runtime. You can start to see why this group is breaking down once you realize that they're trapped in this strange, solitary confinement. Overall, I find this movie to be brilliant on absolutely every level. No doubt, the best movie of 1985.
Now you're telling me that you don't have the shit you need? We're running low on ammunition. We're running low on men, for Christ's sake.
It was very rushed. This operation was put together in a matter of days.
Yeah, well, it can all be taken apart in a matter of minutes, lady. And I'm here to tell you that I'm ready to do that little thing. I'm ready to take the next train out of here.
I ask you again, Captain, where will you go? You have no choices. You'll have to give us the weeks that we've asked for.
You have to give us however long it takes.
Alright guys, that was my top 5 favorite horror movies from the year 1985. 86 is coming soon. I do apologize that some of the videos have been not quite as frequent as one per week like I usually like to do, but I've been busy with a couple of other projects. I have a feature film coming out called Don't Sleep Tonight. should be released probably around the first of the year. Jesus, I Was Evil is now on Tubi, and you can watch it for free. Tubi is just like a great streaming service anyway. They got a lot of really cool stuff on there, so definitely check them out. Here on the 7th Street Productions channel, we do have some new short films. We do have Kurt vs. Soup, which is a comedy horror film that I starred in. And of course, you know, make sure that you're checking out our other videos. Like and subscribe. Hit me up on Facebook. Until next time, guys.
This is a fucking loony bin. I ain't being paid enough to work in a fucking loony bin.
I ain't being paid at all.
Hey.
What's your last paycheck, Steel?
Hey, shut this. All right, shut up. Just shut up.